All right, so I'm calling Jerome Scaturro right now. We're getting on a live session. Gonna try this out. Hopefully, everybody's doing good out there. I know that we are facing a pretty interesting, unprecedented situation around the world. So I think he's calling in right now.
Okay.
All right, so welcome, Jerome Scaturro, to another episode of The Conversation with Luis Ramirez. So obviously, we met up again today. Last time we met was March 27th. A special edition. I know you wanted to talk a little bit more about fear and also anxiety. So why don't you introduce yourself to our group?
Yeah. Jerome Scaturro, a licensed drug and alcohol counselor and professional counselor. I've been working in the field of professional counseling for 7 years. I also am a fitness manager. Been doing that for a while. So I'm just here to help Luis out and talk, about a lot of stress and anxiety during these times. So
Yeah, man. No, I appreciate you making the time again for to come out here. I know that the last time we met, we had a very raw and unfiltered conversation, and that's the same thing we're gonna do today. We're gonna have a raw and unfiltered conversation about fear and anxiety. Those are two things that I safely assume that a lot of people are going through today, no matter where you are in the world, no matter who you are, no matter your financial status, right?
yeah.
And one thing that's crazy, that before I got to this podcast, they were talking about the Secretary of the Navy. I don't know if you heard about that, of that
Mm-hmm.
situation with
Yep.
the. Yep, you heard about that. So he
Yeah.
resigned. He resigned
Yeah.
before we literally hopped on this call. And to me, it's just kind of like, no matter who you are, man, you could face fear and anxiety. I'm sure. I don't know, man. I don't know what that guy's feeling right now, but think about getting fired from your job. It's kind of like the Secretary of the Navy, and now
Yeah.
you may have anxiety. Anyways,
Yeah.
but thank you for joining again. And I know that the topic today, like I mentioned, is fear and anxiety. And why don't we just kick off with from your perspective? I know you're a licensed you're licensed in this topic. Like all of us, we're experiencing a lot of it. Can we just add some context to what is fear and or anxiety, and how they both correlate to what we're going through today?
Great question. So we all have fear, right? I mean, as long as you're human, you're having fear. Even animals have fear. It's just the difference is how do we cope and manage that. The problem is that most of us want to not accept the fact that we have fear. So we will do things to not experience that, and that's where the problem comes in. And anxiety is a twofold, right? Anxiety can be environmental, like you grow up in an anxious environment,
Mm-hmm.
eggshell environment, or genetic, like genetically prone to having anxiety, and that you can't, you know, run away from. But I think fear, for the most part, is natural, and the problem is we don't believe or know that it's natural. So we want to do everything to avoid that. But right now, right, this is unavoidable. You can't, you have to experience fear. And understanding that principle from the jump is key to finding a coping mechanism to deal with that. So
And one thing that I want to, I know that we're live right now. All the other podcasts have been pre-recorded that I have done on the conversation podcast, but this one is live. So if there's anybody out there that has a question for Jerome or me, we'll try our best to address that today. You could, this is totally new to both of us, but you could send in a message through the Facebook app, or send me an email at theconversation.lar@gmail.com, and they will try to facilitate that. Fear and anxiety. I know that. Have you felt fear? It's normal to feel fear, right?
yeah, and I'm glad you asked it because I was just about to ask you.
Yeah, I'm reading you,
Yeah,
man.
I mean we've been in races, right? Like, and we talked about this earlier. Like when I start a race, well, wait, forget it. When I'm training for a race, I'm thinking I'm afraid because sometimes I don't think I'll finish, or the fear will drive me to think, oh shoot, I can't make this, right? So it's imagined, it's in my mind, and training for that. And Luis, you know too, right? Training
Hmm.
for 100 miler, right? There's no way, as a human being, you have not had doubt about finishing that. And if you didn't, then you're not human. And that's the way I see it. Like, we're all prepared. We all have to prepare ourselves for those type of fears because it's natural.
That's
And
true.
once you understand that, it's easier. It's easy. It's much easier. You know? Right? Like, I mean, like your first 100 miler, right? Weren't you afraid at one point you weren't going to finish? Even
Hell yeah.
before?
Hell yeah, I
Yeah, I mean,
was.
like, and that's 100 miles. Like, that's a long time.
Hell yeah, I
No?
was.
Yeah.
I mean, I think any goal that you set for yourself, whether it's going to college or going for a new job or running a race, it's daunting because you don't.
Hmm.
The last thing you want to do is fail.
Right.
Fail yourself, fail other people, or just look like a failure in front of other people,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So, to your point, man, yeah, it's. I think we're all right now in that same stage that we're all facing this pandemic. We're all experiencing it. But at the end of the day, it's not about you failing at whatever it is. It's not your fault,
Hmm.
right? So a lot of these things could not be your fault. So I don't know if does that play a part at all
Yeah.
in the fear context, the blame game.
Yeah. And I think, like, I, I set that up to prepare for that question because there's a difference between like training yourself through fear, right?
Hmm.
That's unnatural races versus like a natural fear. This is a natural fear, in my opinion. Like, we're all afraid.
Hmm.
So, like, how do you prepare for this? And this is huge. I mean, and it comes with like a lot of self care and a lot of trying to understand that like this is out of my control. So how do I manage that part of it? You know,
So how do you think people can start managing? Can they compartmentalize the fear and anxiety, or do they both come
they're
together? I
both
guess.
together. Yeah, totally. Like, because anxiety is a symptom of fear. So you can't you can't separate both. Like, if I'm afraid to die, I'm going to have anxiety.
Hmm.
If I'm afraid to go to my job because my boss is a total jerk, then I'm going to have anxiety, right? So fear and anxiety go together. If we're not talking about like a condition and we're just talking about like straight up natural fear and anxiety, it's important to have a structure in place each day where you are not doing things that bring anxiety. For example, if I spend more than an hour on the news, I'm going to think the world's coming to an end.
Hmm.
So I have to minimize my time, or I have to like watch certain things that like help me understand statistics in this game, and then do things for self-care, like meditate, work out, go outside, do these things, podcasts, get with friends. And if I don't
So
have that, it's hard. So
so basically, trying to find you're trying to find some way to cope with. So how can somebody? Because sometimes people, it sounds easy to cope
well,
with fear and anxiety, but people may fall into a trap.
yes.
With
And look, if I'm an isolator by natural ability to isolate, this is really hard right now,
Let's talk about that then.
right? I stay at home. I love it. I want to stay at home. I think it's good, but it's not.
Hmm.
So the isolator has to understand and be aware of that. For an isolator right now, this is the worst time. Alcohol sales are over 50%.
They're up.
They're up. So you take an isolator who loves to drink, can walk down to the nearest liquor store and pick up a bottle and come home and watch the news, they're going to be even more depressed.
Why
So,
is that then? Why is it so easy for? Why is that? It's,
because
again,
alcohol is a depressant,
it sounds like a stupid
alcohol is a
question.
depressant. If I drink, I feel great, but the next day it's a depressant. It, it it's not. It's a false way of dealing with anxiety. It's not like a natural way, and that's the problem.
So what would be a and I want to go back to the false way, but
Yep.
it seems like we could have a little balance over here with false and so what would be a natural way of going through that or facing that, I guess.
Okay, so if I keep it really, really basic, like just what we're doing is natural, right?
We're
We're
talking.
communicating, I'm sharing to you and you're sharing to me our
Hmm.
feelings about what's going on. That's a great step, right? Because it releases meditation, movement, reading, um, being around loved ones if you can, if you're not, quarantined. But I mean, for me, straight up, Luis,
Yep.
just this is huge, man. It's really huge.
Talk
Talking
because
about it, talking
because I,
about those feelings.
because I know in the last episode that we shot on March 27th, which you were thank you for being on episode number 2.
And thank you.
uh, we were talking about anxiety, the anxiety that you felt when you were doing one of your triathlons,
Hmm.
and I think it was around mile 70 of your bike run. So for
Yep.
those that don't that are curious to know more about triathlons, I personally have a lot of respect for any athlete, but most importantly, triathletes, because they have to combine their talent, natural talent, to do swimming first, 2.5 miles of swimming, depending on if it's an Ironman, 180-mile run, is it? Oh, sorry,
112
race.
mile bike.
Sorry, 112-mile bike,
Bike.
and then after that, 26.2-mile run. And during your second leg, which is the bike, you had an anxious moment. You were
Yep.
going through anxiety. Um, can you elaborate how that affected you? And now that we're talking about fear and anxiety, how did that affect you, I guess?
Yeah. Great question, man. Um, I always thought anxiety was genetic strictly or that you weren't tough enough. But I really realized it was all mental. So at that point, I was going through a lot in my life, between my family and
Now, can I pause you there, because I know
yeah,
I asked I guess a private question, and obviously we're live right now on Facebook. So if anybody has any questions on this topic, please go ahead and chime in on fear and anxiety. Jerome's gonna try to answer that, but if you don't want to answer that, man, please don't, because I know we're
no,
live.
of
So
course, definitely. Um, I think that was a turning point for me because to be honest with you, I've never been the same after that. I really believe a part of me had um, a semi heart attack from from what I was going through because I've never been the same. And you know what? Look, that experience taught me a lot, and it taught me a lot in terms of like meditating and being more in touch with me and realizing that I cannot physically rely on races, events, movement my whole life. And I had to deal with a lot of things internally. And it taught me. The universe taught me on that one.
so
For sure.
if I understand a little bit more, it's basically leading to that race. You felt that any type of race that you were having, or sorry, to deal with any anxiety that you were having, you needed to join a race to be able to cope with that.
Yeah, of course.
And I
Yeah.
think what you're saying is that race right there, you realize that shit, I don't need to do a race to face this anxiety.
That's
And,
right.
and then you switch your fitness to do. am I
You're
am
a
I
good
getting it?
host, man. That's
Am I?
exactly right. That's
It's,
exactly right. Yeah. You
so
reframed that. Yeah.
So you started meditating after that.
Yeah, I did. And when I really got into meditation is when I tore my ligament in my knee, and both of those really prepared me to look internally, look inside more deeply, you know. And
Hmm.
that's what this is doing right now. People want to deny it, but you can't. You're quarantined. You have to deal with yourself, and that's the great part, right?
Yeah,
You
because
have to.
in the race, you have people to help you out to facilitate you.
Yeah,
You're on
exactly.
mile 70, and you have to go back to the starting line. You have that resource to pat you on the back.
And that's why anxiety and fear now are high, because people don't understand to just sit there and look at themselves, or deal with themselves.
So
That's why it's all.
how can we sorry
No, no,
I have this question.
go for it.
How can in this conversation right now, for people that are going to be listening to this later, either on this recording or on YouTube, or either on Apple Podcasts, how can you put that into context for people to understand what is fear and anxiety, and then how to basically recognize that? Because I think it's also about awareness. You have to be aware that you have anxiety and fear, that,
Hmm.
and also it's natural. That it's not that you're weak, but figuring out a process to recognize it, prepare for it, mitigate, and then do something about it.
Yeah, great. So fear is not.
Loaded question. I know
No,
that.
but it's awesome because fear is natural. We all have it. If you're human, you're born. You're fearful. I don't care if you're a Navy SEAL going into Iraq. You have fear. The thing about it is, you only know yourself, and if you can find ways to. So we define fear and anxiety. Anxiety is the product of fear, right? So you're going to have anxiety knowing that you're afraid. So if you have both of those, the way to mitigate that is finding solutions for yourself. So if
Hmm.
I love to paint,
Hmm.
let me paint. If I love to go for a walk, I'll go for a walk. If I love to run, I'll run. If I love to meditate, I'll meditate. And what it, not doing those things that calm you will create more anxiety, right? It'll create more of it.
Now, let's just say that I'm a person that all throughout my life things have been very perfect. I've never failed. I've never dealt with failure. Everything was just perfect, right? So you're on this graph that you start at the bottom. I'm gonna just draw it over here. You have this graph that a person's basically here, and they're escalating, progressively escalating up the food chain, whether it's on the corporate ladder or either in personal. And they've never dealt with any struggles, any failures, any setbacks, and now they find themselves here compared to a person that shout outs to Mishka Shubali. We had a great conversation a couple of days ago. He's going to be on podcast number 5. Look out for that, please. But Mishka Shubali is a perfect example, and I'm hoping
Yeah.
that he's okay with me sharing this stuff up with him. But you have individuals like that have had a setback in their life, and they figure themselves out, and then they work through that. So how can a person that's never failed, never felt uncertainty, and now they're in quarantine on day whatever it is, past 20, close to 30, and they're looking at potentially coping with alcohol or any other substance? Are there any tips that you could give them for doing a natural versus unnatural?
Yeah, I mean, another great question. Um, if I can give the you want me? Should I give the hard answer to that?
Listen,
The hard answer
so
would be that that's bullshit.
which one is
There's
bullshit?
nobody. I don't care if you're 10 or you're 20. You've been through something.
So you're okay. So you're calling bullshit on the fact that nobody has ever dealt with failure. Nobody has
No
ever dealt.
way. No way. No way.
Okay,
It's
okay,
impossible. And
that's
and
true.
and the reason why I say that is because, like, that's the rawness that someone has to experience to grow. You know, like if someone is saying that, they're not either numb or they're afraid because they don't
Mm.
want to search inside themselves to deal with certain things that they have to. And I respect that question because I know for me saying that to you, you'd be all right with that.
Yeah, yeah, no,
No,
that's
I
good.
know because there's no way I can help somebody.
Here, let me help you out.
Yeah, go ahead.
Try not. I know. Try not to sugarcoat it. I know that
No,
this is a podcast. We're all
yep.
unfiltered. It's going to be later on Apple Podcasts. It's going to be on YouTube as well. And I know that you are a licensed clinician, right? So out of respect to that, try not to sugarcoat the answer too much, but just give it to a point where people can actually digest it, understand it, and say, "Huh, he's fucking right."
And my license means nothing. What means to me is everything I've been through, and I struggled hard, and I'm still struggling.
But your license means something to me, so that's why I wanted to
That,
make sure of
thanks,
that.
Luis, man. Thank you.
No, so
I just
seriously, how
think
can? Yeah, go
I
ahead.
just think that the struggles that I've been through and the struggles that you've been through
Hmm.
define us, man. And we that makes us not who we are, but the ability to help and teach others. And teach others that like it's okay. It's okay to be vulnerable and share that you're vulnerable. Because I cannot have grown if I did not share that I have weaknesses. And that's the important part. At age 10 and 20, I had vulnerabilities. And from the only way that I grew was to share that. That's
So
it.
what kind of vulnerabilities did you have at that point?
Oh, insecure, needed to drink to like talk to
At
a
age
girl.
at age 10?
A 10.
Is that's what you said? You
Well, I
said
don't
age.
know. I know not 10, maybe not 10, but 10, 10 for me, like I didn't even want to like if a kid made fun of me because I struck out, I didn't want to be on the team
Ah,
at age
okay.
10, right?
Okay. Okay.
Confidence. Like maybe 14, if a girl rejected me, I was like, oh shit. And I felt like every girl didn't want to be with me. Or age 18, for me to talk to a girl that was really beautiful, I had to
Hmm.
drink. I had to drink, man. And I didn't need to, but I had
Mm.
to,
To be
you
able to
know?
cope with that.
Yeah, of course. The rejection, right? Being rejected. Oh shit. How does that feel? You know?
Yeah. So
And
I know
those are
that
vulnerabilities. Like,
that's true. So being vulnerable is actually good in a good way.
yeah, of course. Yeah, we're all vulnerable. And if you deny that, then I want to work with you even more. If you deny that, I want to work with you because maybe we can get somewhere.
So how can you, because I know last time we spoke, you gave a pretty you gave everybody a perspective of behind the scenes of how you go about by somebody actually uh coming to you and having trust in you. They're not gonna have trust with you in the first day, but trust is built,
Hmm.
right? But then you actually give them the mechanism to recognize that beforehand. So can you elaborate on a little bit
Yeah.
more on that?
Yep. So I'm just a reflection of what you need to work on. That's all. I'm not judging you. I will never tell you what's wrong or right. You're going to come to your own solution. So I'm just a mirror, and that mirror helps you to determine if you want to change,
Hmm.
and that's important. You know,
Hmm. Hmm.
like if you felt or someone felt that you were being judged, it'd be different, right? Like, so I will never present that
And there's
because
a lot
I've
of
been
people.
through my own stuff.
There's a lot of people that pass judgment.
Of course, even counselors,
No
right?
shit, and you're not supposed to.
No, if you are if you look if you've worked on yourself, you will not pass judgment. If you if if I've worked on myself enough, I will not pass judgment. Period.
So as a counselor, you're saying, or as a person listening?
Both, both, because they blend and they can't help to blend, right? Like it's easy for me and you to sit back here and you tell me your story and me go, oh, that's not me or that is me, right? But when you have that ability to have worked so hard and suffer, and we've suffered, haven't we suffered?
Of
We've
course.
suffered so much. When you've suffered, I think it's a freedom, because
So,
now you're suffering, we can identify with it.
so is it is it more like reliability that you can relate to that individual
Yeah,
constant struggle?
yeah, of course. Like,
So you,
so if I was going to go into a jail and I was
yep.
going to help convicts who've murdered people, and they say to me, Jerome, you've never murdered someone. How am I going to help them?
So we have a comment over here.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Yeah, we have a comment over here. Struggles. So the comment came from Mr. Luis Ramos, right? So he says that struggles make you stronger, makes you grow in life, and makes you understand the responsibilities you get into life.
Hmm. That's right.
So
That's right.
what would you say to that
I
to
love
that
it.
comment there? You
That's
love it?
great.
I'm gonna reply back saying you like it.
Struggle. This is a struggle. Quarantined. I mean, look at the Great Depression, man. Come on. How can we complain? Oh, my God.
So people back then went through some shit.
God, they had to worry about like their next meal.
Do you
I
think
mean,
that
my God.
do you think that we're that we as a country in the United States of America in April 7, 2020 and onward, are we going to be facing something like that too?
Yeah,
You
definitely.
think so? You think
Oh,
so?
yeah. You know why? Because there's going to be a lot of businesses are going to fail because of this. You know, a lot, a lot. But
I mean, the economy right now has taken a huge impact, right? I remember having a
yeah,
conversation with one of the clients of mine, and I texted him while I was actually he texted me while I was running, and I just happened to pick up, and typically I would just put it back, but this client of mine I haven't spoken to in a while, so I decided to engage with him in the conversation, thinking that it was just going to be a one text message deal. Um, and I asked him, I was like, hey, how is your business going? Because he's in the automotive business. And I know for sure that the real estate industry has taken a hit. The
hmm,
automotive and pretty much every single industry has taken a hit, including the pre-K to 12 industry, right?
yep,
Although we look at the school system as not being a business, they are also a business. So this individual that texted me is in the automotive business. So considering I was there, I asked him, I was like, hey, how has your industry, how's your business right now? He's like, we're still trucking along. So he's a very optimistic guy, which I love him for that. But at that time, we were at 3.3 million people that
unemployment.
were unemployed, and I told him it sucks, obviously, that we're at 3.3, but I think that number is going to go up more. And he's like,
It
impossible.
is.
And I shed some light. This is while me running, while I'm running, and I'm texting him some information. And based on what I gave him, he's like, that's going to put us at 10 million people unemployed. I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's only the people that are employed, but the people that are 1099s that have the mom and pop businesses, they're not. I don't think they're accounted for in that
No,
number. And I think when you lump those two together, that's the massive impact in the economy that you're addressing right now. That people are just going to be. I know people that are truck drivers, people that deliver the food from one
that's right.
from the warehouse to the local grocery, not Walmart's, but the local grocery stores. It's a trickle effect, right? So
Yeah.
that's kind of where I was asking you, because I think I wanted to hear from your perspective. Is that going to be where we're going? And if so, how are people are anxious right now to make their living, and it sucks that they don't have that safe net, right? That
Yeah,
safe
man.
net so are there any tips that you could to coping with that anxiety, that before you were making whatever it was on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis, and now you're just waiting for that stimulus package from the government, which is probably only one time, and then after that you may not have another. I don't know, where do you get that? You have to be resourceful, right? You have to be. I don't know, what do you think?
Well, if we're looking at fear, right, we got to look at the end result. So that means like what? You're going to be homeless on the street, no job, nothing. So that's the end. And
So what you're saying is avoiding, don't look at it in that
well,
way.
the thinking process in that, right? Like if what you're saying, what you visually gave a great example of the end of a big thing, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
mortgages, all that. So the end result would be like I'm on the street with my family and I have nothing. But we know that that's not true. Right? There's more today that we can get financially from the government than ever. Ever. So I think understanding the reality of that, like what can I apply for? What can I do? Can I get up early and make sure that I'm finding these things is important. Like because it's not true. It's not true.
So in the you're in New Jersey right now, right?
Yeah.
How's the thing? How's the situation going on
It's
in New
bad,
Jersey?
man. It's bad. It's quiet. Like people are. See, all right. I'm going to be honest. Can I be honest?
I've been
Can I
digging
put the
through it.
light on? See the
Go
light?
ahead. Where were you
All
on
right.
April
I'm going to
7th?
give it. I'm going to give the honest thing.
Let's do
People
it.
that love being lazy is an opportunity now for them to be even more lazy.
So repeat that again. People that are
All
lazy
right.
is an
People that
opportunity.
have been lazy before this
Yeah.
is a more opportunity for them to be even more lazy.
So let's put some context to that. When you're saying lazy meaning that you had
Meaning
a
like,
job.
all right, let me rely on the government.
Okay.
Let me not work. Let me not try to get things done. Because the coronavirus is a great excuse. That's what I mean. And that's the shameful part of it. That's the shameful part of it.
So you
Like,
can have.
go
Okay.
ahead.
Sorry. No, good.
No,
I'm
don't
just.
get me wrong. Like people that have really can struggle, I get it. But the opportunity now is different. Get up, take advantage of this time, and do.
So let's look at that. Let's look at that from that perspective, taking advantage of this uncertain times, because for sure we could sit down, and I think you sent me a personal message, which I think people can find it on Facebook as well. You have two options, right?
That's right.
And
That's right.
that video, I smiled at it because you were just in my zone. You were just sweaty. You
I
had a
was in
hoodie
it, man.
on. So
Yes.
can you take us back to
That's.
what that video and the two option video? And I think
I'm
that's what
glad
you're
you.
saying right
Yeah.
now.
Yep. I'm glad you brought that up because it's true. If I ended up, see, my worst fear. I'm going to give you my worst fear, right?
Yep.
Is
Yep.
that I'll end up under the George Washington Bridge, homeless.
Why is that? I
That's my
have some.
fear.
I got another message over here.
Oh, okay. Let's go.
All right. So
Bring it.
you may know this person, Melissa Newell.
Okay.
No
Bring her.
excuses. No excuses. You tell them, get up
That's
and
right.
do. Get
That's
up and
right.
do.
Yes. It's true. Yeah. I mean, there are none. Like I don't know. There's a moment in my day where I see this as just an opportunity, man. The
So
universe teaching us.
let's two things that you said, and one thing that I heard that's scaring me, because you said you're gonna be under a bridge, and I don't. Let's we can talk about that later.
Yeah.
But let's focus on the Melissa Newell message, to get up and
Mm-hmm.
do, which I think is two messages
That's right.
that you said, and how you introduce a topic where you have two people or two groups of people, that one could be not done anything leading to where we are, and now they're finding an excuse to not do, to carry that forward. Or you
Mm-hmm.
have the group of people that actually say, shit, this sucks, let me take my time and cry about it, let me figure how to figure this out.
That's right.
And I think
That's it.
I'm in the first category, the get up and do category.
Well, you won't allow them to cry?
No, man, crying. Listen, man,
I'm
crying.
kidding.
No.
No.
Crying is good. I think
Yeah.
crying is healthy. I'm
And
about to
that's
start
my
crying
point.
now.
No, that's my point. Like, just like fear, right? Like, fear is natural.
Yeah.
Like, but we gotta, like, there has to be a point for me. There's a point in my life where I say, okay, what is this trying to teach me? And if I can't discover that answer, then I need to get help finding that answer. And that may mean, you know, going out on my own, talking to people, figuring out what's going on inside of me. There's a lot of people now today, Luis, that are going to figure out inside themselves, holy shit, I didn't realize that, like, being a VP of a corporation was making me miserable. That as a janitor in a certain place, and I had to listen to Joe Schmo, that wasn't working for me. Like there's the difference. Like, look, I want to be around people that want to lift me up. I
It's
want
all
to be
about
around, yeah,
positivity.
or like, if I need to work on something, you tell me. Luis, you call me up. I want you to call me up or text me and say, Jerome, you need to work on this shit. You really, you know, how can I help you?
So on podcast number 7 that I recorded, I think it was on Saturday morning with Michelle and Jolie Vieto. It's coming out later on this in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, you've been rocking it out, man.
Man, I this podcast.
You've been rocking that out.
Yeah,
I'm proud of you, man. I am really proud of you.
Thank you. I have
Totally,
4
man.
more. I have 4 more lined up. Besides that, so no, seriously. On Saturday morning, I recorded an episode with Michelle and Jolie Vieto, and the last thing that she left us with, which is I'll share that in a sneak tip later on, is exactly, I think one of the things that you said right now is that this is one of the moments that if you are in a job that you are not happy with, as an example, or you are in a job that you are satisfied with, but you think that you could do a little bit better, she gave a pretty strong recommendation that you could call out to at least 10 people, reach out to 10 people to not burn bridges. Number one, you don't want to burn bridges, keep that connection going, but you want to reach out to those at least 10 people that you've worked with in the past and ask them a simple question. What was it good about, what was like positive that, what was the question? I'm trying to basically just ask them, hey, what was good about Jerome Scaturro? Why did you like working with Jerome Scaturro?
Mm-hmm.
Just be very honest and raw. Or why didn't you like working with me? And I think that's going to give you a roadmap to try to figure yourself out for your next job or your next career.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's what you're saying right there in a way.
Yeah, I mean, it the stillness of certain things is what I think is important. Like, this
What do
is
you mean by that? What do you mean by
like this is requiring us to be still, to actually sit there and work and look and reflect on certain things in our lives. And that's what's hard, because as a society, we don't do that. We're going, I don't do that. I'm going every day, and I think this is meant to be. This is what it's supposed to be, and to be still.
So in a way, remember those staple buttons from the early 2000s or 19? I forgot when it was.
Totally.
I think if we were to recreate that button right now, it's basically hitting a reset.
Yes, but also too to look at, like, I don't know. I see it like nature is trying to tell us something.
What are they trying to tell you? What are they trying to tell you?
Look, if a bat created this stuff, man, the bat is like, okay, game on, right? Like, why wouldn't I? All right, this is not fear or anxiety, but why wouldn't I create a defense mechanism if you were trying to trap me?
Why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
I don't have an answer.
You take a bat.
You should be able. That should be a natural reaction to try to block it off.
If you take a bat out of the nature and you put it in a cage, what is it going to do?
It's going to go fucking wild.
Yeah.
That's not in its nature.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Hey, how about
I don't choose to see this out of fear. That's all. I don't. And it's a choice.
so we were talking about before a natural way of dealing with this versus an unnatural way, which
Yes.
you said before that alcohol could be an
Or
unnatural way,
drugs. Yep.
or drugs, just a dependent. And obviously
Yeah.
dopamine,
You made
dopa
the right word, dependent. Yep.
dependency, right? So
Yeah.
obviously dopamine is a plays a critical part in this in this, right? Even
Hmm.
I'm gonna butcher this one, serotonin as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So I know you didn't before we had this conversation, this going live. I know you didn't want to get too technical here, but can you elaborate on dopamine and serotonin, how those play a part in people's decision making?
Yeah. So the dopamine receptors are those things that like the drug or the alcohol will falsely represent and fill up as like a mask. And
Hmm.
the serotonin is more of like which can be masked by by drugs, but there's a there's like this natural effect to the serotonin level that needs to happen not with drugs or alcohol, because the dopamine in its sense from drugs and alcohol can be diminished, and then now you have depressive symptoms and more anxious symptoms. So the serotonin is more like if I went out for a run, or you know, or even talking and communicate, my serotonin levels can rise just from talking to somebody
Really?
that I can identify with. Yeah.
Is that a good thing?
Yeah, of course.
So
100%.
I guess I have a lot of serotonin then because I like to talk.
Totally.
No, but seriously, okay. So some ways that people could, because obviously we keep touching base on alcohol, but in reality, people could be addicted to other things as well. It's not just alcohol or drugs. They could be addicted to so many other things,
Yeah.
like watching
Like me and
TV.
you, like we love to work out, right? Like,
Yep.
and the serotonin increase from that is phenomenal. I mean, finishing 100-mile race, or let's say, all right, let's keep it basic. Finishing a 5K is a huge accomplishment, but the serotonin level increase is big. And not that it's unnatural, but I think if I had to, in this time, replace, if I had to run a 5K for my serotonin levels to increase versus like drinking a bottle of whiskey, where my dopamine goes down and I'm depressed the next day, I would more opt for that 5K because it's going to benefit me on
So
so many different levels.
so
So
I
there's
hear
the
you.
difference.
I hear you loud and clear. Let's dial it back for people that are probably listening to this and saying, okay, they're saying these two big words. What are they, right? Because I understand what you mean. That one is going up, the other one's going down. Depending on what you're intaking or what you're doing, it can have an opposite effect, right?
Hmm.
So can you shed some light in because if you have alcohol, you're saying that the dopamine is going to go up. Is that what you're saying?
No, down. Like
The
it's
dopamine is
a
going to go down.
decrease. It's a decrease. So the dopamine has that effect in terms of like depressive symptoms, right?
Okay.
So alcohol is depressant. So if I drink, I may feel awesome, but my dopamine level is decreasing. So the next day, if I am an alcoholic, then
Hmm.
my depression will increase big time. So it's important to understand that, like during these times, drugs and alcohol are depressants. So increasing your serotonin levels from exercising, meditation, working out. I mean, it's more important during these times. So
So alcohol, I know we talk about alcohol and drugs, but
it's a
other things that
depressant.
people could do, other people could be addicted to exercising or addicted to watching Netflix, right? Or just
Mm,
TV, not just Netflix. Eating, Eating could be
Yes.
another source that people. It's just
Excellent.
obviously with people going to shop for more food and an abundance of food, it's right there. So it's easy for you to just say, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna have some more M&Ms at 10 o'clock at night, then 11
Hmm.
o'clock at night. Then now when you see is 2 o'clock in the morning, and you still
Right.
haven't fallen asleep. So it pretty much affects your whole routine. Um, so I've heard this thing about everything in moderation. We're not saying that doing any of those substances or any of these other like TV or food is bad. It's just everything in moderation. Would you agree with something like that?
Yeah. I mean,
Or no?
that's a
I'm trying.
loaded term.
Why is that? I'm trying to read your facial reaction.
Well, because I mean, that's like one of those like I mean, it's hard to answer that question for the general public because they're not going to get it. Because it's
Everything in
true.
moderation.
It's 100% true. So, like, from new now, right? I'm isolated. I had to structure how much time I'm listening to the news, how much time me and you are going to spend together, how much time I'm going to work out, how much time me and my wife are going to like talk or not talk, which is killing me. And
So you guys have a routine as far as
you
don't
have
talk to
to,
me now.
man. No, you have to, because I mean, it's so true, and that's a great question, but it's so hard in our society to really answer that because I believe in that, and it comes from the food industry, right? Like, don't have too many carbs, um, don't have too much alcohol.
So me. If I ask a question, I always have a follow up,
Yeah, I
right?
know you do. I know. I was ready for that.
So the next follow up is that basically too much is also a problem. So if
Yeah.
everything is in moderation, too much of it is also a problem. But most importantly, that awareness piece that I said, knowing your limits.
Yes. How does a celebrity, how does the Kardashians, excuse me if they're on here, but they're probably not. How does
Dude, if they were here, if they were here, if they were here, I think you and I have done something really remarkable. But no, has quarantine already affected you, man?
No, I mean, like, so I don't understand how celebrities try to moderate because that's hard. I give them credit. They have everything at their disposal, you know?
So
So,
we got some more comments over here. Uh, Melissa again, she says that she thinks. I'm not gonna read it verbatim. I think if you've been living a healthy lifestyle for years or months, you can't let this time. You can't let quarantine undo your gains.
yeah. Well,
So
she's a rock
basically,
star anyway.
she's a rock
So,
star. So
she is a rock star.
so what feedback do you have for that comment? Basically, I think if you've been living a healthy lifestyle for years or months, you can't let quarantine undo your gains.
That's right. You know why?
What was
Because
that?
it's the same. I see it as a parallel. Like, I'm not going to let my fears dominate me. I'm not going to let my fear of paralyzing me take control. That's the way I see it.
But
That's the
basically,
way
fear.
I totally see it.
But you could utilize fear and anxiety to as a positive driving
Yes.
force of change.
Yes. We don't even need to. You can shut the podcast off right now after that because it's true. No, it's true. You have to. Like, if we're always positive, what is that? Like, if everything's great, what is that? Everybody's happy. What is that?
Hmm.
It's when the struggle or when we're forced to deal with fear and anxiety. That's when it's the challenge. And she's right. Melissa is 100% right.
So a couple of days ago, have you heard the movie the Pianist?
Yeah.
You seen the Pianist?
I haven't seen it. I heard it.
All right. So for whoever is going to be listening to this later, either on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts, the Pianist is a movie. It's a real based on a real story. Basically, a pianist. I think he was Polish in Poland during the Nazi invasion. Um, Nothing related to the quarantine that we're going through right now. Nothing related to the coronavirus. But essentially, he had to face his reality, right? Where now the invasion of his country. He was living. He pretty much had nothing. He had no food, no clothes, no shelter, and he had to figure out what to do. And kind of like what Melissa said and what you said in your video is you got two options: you do nothing or you do something. And total respect to everybody who went through that situation during the 1940s. But I'm just saying, highlighting the fact that in that movie, he showed us pretty much what you can do with fear and anxiety. You could utilize the resources available around you, and number one, dig deep inside you to be able to live that one extra life. And I'll give a little perspective on my uh, my experience, I guess, with anxiety and fear in a way where you alluded several times as far as the ultra marathons that we used to do. And I knew sometimes when I was going into the zone of doing 100 miles or 200 miles, or even if you were to do a marathon, 26.2 miles, or even a 5K, if you think about that big number, oh, I got to do a 5K, that's, to a lot of people, that's a lot, right? You don't want to think about the 5K, or you don't want to think about the marathon, 26.2 miles. You don't want to think, I never thought about that big number that were 100 miles. I thought about, okay, what is the next goal for me? Meaning that if I'm starting the race, to me, I looked at it as where is the next water station. The next water station was probably 2 miles away. So to me, that gave me an attainable goal. That once I reach that goal, then I'll say, okay, I'm gonna go to the next goal. So maybe right now in this time of fear and anxiety that we're going through in the quarantine, it may seem challenging that it's going to take another potentially 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 months, but it may be beneficial to think about, okay, if today is April 7th, maybe by April 30th, that's an attainable goal. And then recalibrate that mindset to be able to attain that in case we have to extend this past May 1st, right? Because or else like I said before, you're going to drive yourself insane with thinking this, and then the fear and anxiety is going to really dig deep. I don't know. You're the expert here.
No, you're exactly right, Luis.
You're the expert here.
Yeah, I mean, having that attainable goal to the end is important, and I think. But you know what? It's like if I have a solution for myself, you can tell me a year from now this will be over, and I'll be okay.
A solution
the
for
peace
what?
of mind, the peace of mind, the peace of mind to whatever. If I knew my job wasn't coming back, how am I going to deal with that? If I knew I had to survive with my family, I mean, me and you, we both come from a place that like we have an end goal, but what if we didn't have an end goal? What if there wasn't an end? What if I didn't know the definite time or day? But would both of us have, which that would be my last thing to tell everyone, is you have to come up with a personal solution that will help you deal with fear and anxiety. And self-care is important. Me finishing 5 Ironmans is self-care. Because in each of them, I thought I would fail. And I wasn't, and a bunch of them, I was afraid for many things in my life. But I made it.
So what other solutions or opportunities you think people will have for self-care?
You have to talk. You have to talk to people, man.
Because right now people can't go out there and do a triathlon or do a 5K, or people may not be able to do a 5K or do extreme exercises, right? Talking, okay?
You have to. Like what me and you were doing, man. That's important. You have to share how you're feeling and thinking to other people, and other than the people that are living in your house. I'm talking about like other people. It's important.
So people that may not be able to, that may not sugarcoat things. They just tell you
of
what
course.
it is.
Yeah. Or just like listen to you. Like if you have something going on, something you feel or think, you have to. because we don't have the distractions. A lot of people that feel or think things have distractions. We don't have them. I'm not getting up, going to work 70 hours a week. I have to now, be home. So you have to talk to people.
So you were saying, I think what you're saying there is that before all this lockdown happened, the stay at home happened, we may have been feeling something like this, but we had an ability to cope with this because we were talking to other
Exactly.
people.
That's right.
But now that we're cooped up
That's
with
why you're
our
host, bro. That's
now that
exactly it.
now that we're coped up living with our significant others,
Yep.
how about kids? If you have a
Oh
teenager
man. Oh my
or
God.
you have an adolescent,
Oh my God.
you could be alone because there could be multiple things. You could be by yourself, female or male, or whatever. You could be alone, and that could be challenging in itself, right? Or you could be with just you and your significant other. And if you've never spent more than a weekend with each other, now you're basically stuck in. Or you could be with
Man.
family, right? Adolescents. So how do you cope with children, teenagers, or young ones?
Do we have a 1 minute reprieve? Or are we live?
We are live, but you need
Can
to.
I do a 1 minute reprieve?
Yeah,
Okay.
we have more comments here. I'll go ahead. I'll keep everybody.
Okay.
I'll
All
keep
right.
everybody entertained.
Right back. I
What do you
promise.
think? All right, so we're live right now, listening to Jerome Scaturro on the Conversation podcast with Luis Antonio Ramirez. He's taking a little break right now, but this is recording. Is definitely going to be available later on YouTube. Please subscribe to my channel. It's on YouTube called The Conversation with Luis Antonio Ramirez. I think you can find it as The Conversation LAR. Subscribe to it. You'll be basically notified when other videos will be posted. Also on podcasts, if you decide to listen instead of watch, if you listen to it, you could just go to Apple Podcasts and you can find that on there as The Conversation. If you type in my name, Luis, which is LUIS, then my middle initial A, and then Ramirez, RAMIREZ, you'll be able to find it there on Apple Podcasts. Or you could also find it on SoundCloud. Basically, what I'm saying is that there's multiple ways that you could consume this this podcast. Any other recording that you see there is going to be pre-recorded. Every single Wednesday, you'll be able to see new videos posted on there. Every single Monday, you'll be able to listen to new audio. So basically, the audios will be posted on Mondays. Videos will be posted on Wednesdays. And then Fridays, you'll see essentially the sneak peeks of the next recordings. So tomorrow, you'll be seeing the video for the negotiation piece that I shot a couple of days ago with Alan Sang. He's a lead negotiator around the world. He speaks to us about the process of negotiating and why it's critical to know how to negotiate during these times, either if it's in business or in personal life. If it's in business, you have to basically renegotiate what you already have renegotiated in the past. He walks us through the process. We also talk about Hong Kong and his travels. He is from Hong Kong, so he loves to travel a lot. So obviously, with all the restrictions now, we get into that as well. So as you notice in these conversations, they're pretty much raw and unfiltered. And I like to talk, so that's pretty much what I'm bringing to you here. And then after that, the next podcast is going to be with Mishka Shubali. He's an author. He's a comedian. He's also a writer. And we pretty much talking about raw and unfiltered. You can't get any more raw and unfiltered than that. He even titles himself as a smartass. So you'll be able to see it if you go to his website, who he is. You go to mishkashubali.com. Right after that, then we're also going to be showing you, like I mentioned before, on connecting people. So Michelle and Jolie Bieto, she's going to be joining the podcast as well, and she's going to be talking about how to connect with people and leveraging your past connections to be able to come out of this pretty much stronger. So here we got again, Jerome. So we have more feedback for you here. I have not read this one because I was keeping people entertained. All right, so another comment from Luis Ramos. It says, you have to jump, quote. Not sure what that means yet, but let's read it.
Okay.
Jump in life for something that makes you happy. All right. All right, so jump in life for something that makes you happy. If you live in fear all your life, you are never going to create your goals or even get to say, hey, I tried or did it. In life, you
Yeah.
always are going to get doors closed, but that does not mean that that's the end. And to me, that is success and that's change.
Yeah. Wow.
That's freaking deep,
Whew.
huh?
Oh my god. Who is this guy? Has
Who
he
is
been
this
on your?
guy?
Has he been on your podcast?
I think he's signing up for the next guest on my podcast. No, but seriously, I think that's
No,
a
it's true.
really valuable
I mean,
point.
like, because I don't know if it's because I'm getting older. Like, I see myself like,
Sexy and hot. I get it. That's how you see yourself.
oh, when are we going on a run, man? When are we going
All
on a
right,
run together?
focus.
Seriously. All right.
Focus on your son.
Okay. Okay. No, because it's true. It's like I just see myself. I want to know that when I'm like at the end of the end, that like I did things that made me happy, but also like change the world, like help the world, like did something for the world, you know. That's important.
Reading his comments, you're absolutely right. Doing something for the world, doing something that is going to benefit others, not benefit you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, have you Steve Harvey?
Yeah.
You know who
Oh
Steve
yeah.
Harvey is?
Yeah, it's from
All right.
TMZ, right? Is that
Not
the
sure. If
guy?
it's, not sure if it's
TMZ.
TMZ, but he's a comedian.
Oh, okay.
He's also
It's not
the host of the Family Feud,
Steve. Oh, okay.
right?
Yes.
The host of
Yes.
Miss America or Miss
Yes.
Universe.
I'm thinking of
Uh,
I don't know, whatever.
but Steve
Okay.
Harvey has that perfect mustache. Come on, you know who he
Right.
is. No, but seriously, I think his comment right there. As I'm reading it, I'm looking at the book called Jump, Jump, by Steve Harvey.
Okay.
If you've never read the book, it's a pretty easy book, and to me, I think is one of the go-to books that kind of made me realize, like he said, that you have to pretty much live your life and try to do something, positive, and that it's going to
Yep.
lead you to 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 what he said, right? If some people are going to close your doors, but anyways, the point I'm trying to make is Jump. Steve Harvey at one point was an insurance broker. He was working in the insurance business, and he was just like, "This is not what I want to do." And I think you alluded to that before. So he realized that he wanted to be in TV. He wanted to entertain people,
Mhm.
and he essentially jumped. He just said, "Screw it. I'm just going to jump. There is no safety in that. I'm just going to figure things out." And he jumped into the entertaining business by being a comedian. And he had his doors closed, like he's saying over here, but he created those goals to be able to be the entertainer that he is today. And obviously, we all heard about the Kings of
Right.
Comedy, and he was on the Kings of Comedy, and now and he also spoke about one important part that he failed at. He failed as the host of the Miss Universe pageant.
Yeah.
I don't know if
I
you
couldn't
remember.
imagine that. Yeah.
You remember when
When
he
he
was
said
talking about
that, oh
he was
God.
talking about I may screw it up here too, but he
Yeah.
was talking about the Miss Columbia, right? I think it
Yep.
was.
Yeah.
But anyways, that was a huge it was an
Yeah.
opportunity in his life because he screwed up, but he rectified that and he realized that. So he wrote about that in the book. So, Luis, thank you so much.
My biggest anxiety is failing.
Your biggest anxiety is failing.
Is failing. Yep. But you know what? How do we look? How do I learn that failing is an opportunity? I mean, that's just a whole. I mean, we could do that for hours.
How do
But
you
it
know?
is, it
How do
is
you?
like failing in terms of like if 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 I disappoint somebody or if I disappoint, that's failing to me.
I'll share this with you, man. I love failing.
You do,
I do.
you freaking
No, seriously,
beast. You're a beast. Well, you're a beast.
it's a
When you're a
rash.
beast,
It's a rational failure, not irrational.
mm,
Meaning that I worked at Mercedes Benz. You know that.
yeah,
And for a very long time, I wanted to just jump, kind of like what Steve Harvey did. But my dad was just like, no. So I listened to my dad. So I had the devil, the red,
hmm
the devil on my shoulder, kind of saying, do it, do it, do it. But my dad was always like, no, don't do it, right? Anyway, so I decided to say after a while, I'm gonna follow kind of what he said over here. I'm gonna follow my dream, my gut on this. And I had a huge thought in my head that what if I fail? But I think if you fail, you're actually gonna learn from that opportunity. So I don't look at it as a mistake, but it gives you. It's kind of like Batman, right? Batman had all these tools
Yeah,
on his
yeah.
belt. All those tools that are on your belt. And now I'm speaking more from an entrepreneur because
Hmm.
I've been in the entrepreneur world for
Yeah,
the
man.
past
You're.
years.
I admire you, bro.
No, but
No, I'm seriously,
there's
100%.
there's millions of entrepreneurs out there, and I think entrepreneurs will definitely feel this. Even think about it. Think about this, right? Think about a female that has a baby. Think about her fears of actually being going through that, of being pregnant, and then realizing that she has never had a baby ever in her life, and now she has to essentially learn how to be a mother. Obviously,
Hmm.
they have books out there to teach you all these things, but in reality, when you hold your baby for the first time, you're actually learning a new process.
Hmm.
You're learning how to basically care for that child, and I think that's the same. I'm drawing some very broad parallels here about failure,
No, this is
the
good, man.
opportunities, entrepreneurship, and then motherhood or parent or fatherhood. But I think I like failure because it teaches you new things.
Yeah,
There's another.
I agree.
I'm going to talk about another book over here. The book is "What Do You Do with an Idea?" Have you heard about that? It's a pretty good book. It's a children's book. It's probably 20 pages long, and the book illustrates an egg, and that egg is an idea, and then you have a child kind of with an idea, and he through the first couple of pages, he's saying, "What is an idea?" And then he doesn't know how to put the idea into perspective, and he's out, my idea is just is not important to anybody. And then all of a sudden the egg shows up, and he's like, yes, it is important, it's important to you. So he pretty much puts his idea into play, and one thing leads to another. It could be failures, but that failure is going to be able to help
Yeah,
you
man.
tweak that
Love it.
process.
Yeah,
And think about it, and think about Elon Musk over here, right? He had a vision, he had an idea. Think about all the times that he's failed to create a Tesla,
that's right.
right?
Einstein, man.
So
How
what
many
I'm saying
failures? Yeah,
was
go
that
ahead. Yeah,
no, no.
no, go
I
ahead.
was just I was just gonna wrap it up by saying that failure to me, my hands are sweaty right now because I'm talking
I
about this.
love it. I love it, man.
But to me,
That's good.
I think it's those butterflies that make you who you are in the
Yeah,
process, in that journey.
that's right.
So
But you know what, though, Louise? And I know we're wrapping it up, but man, like you got me triggered to think about something.
what's up?
And I remember as a kid the different failures that I had, and who made me who I am today. And I think that's important. And
You want to elaborate on that a little
no, I
more?
mean it's true.
Well,
That's all I got to say.
you don't want to elaborate
For
on that.
the next podcast. The
You want
next
to
podcast.
elaborate that on the next podcast.
Yeah, man. Definitely.
All right.
Definitely.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Jerome, thank you again for joining this very unique podcast. It's a live feed on Facebook. So no, seriously, thank you, man, for making the
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you for everybody who is listening. It's going to be posted on obviously on my Facebook page, but most importantly, subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is Conversation LAR, or subscribe to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, which you'll find it obviously on Apple Podcasts. You can find it under the Conversation, or you can find it under my name, which is Luis A. Ramirez, or you could listen to it on SoundCloud. But most importantly, Jerome Scaturro, how can they find you for your services?
Dr. J-Man23 on Instagram and on Facebook at Jerome Scaturro. So that's all I'm on, man.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, and I appreciate you listening. And Jerome, I appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.